Hello and welcome to the Beth of Fresh Air. It's May 29, 2026, and I'm super happy to be here with Micah Ellars again, so I'm going to bring him on. I just let you know that I have a nice new little insignia to let you know that this is actually the Beth of Fresh Air on the King Hero channel, not that same show. So without further ado, here comes Micah.
Hi.
Hi, and welcome, Micah. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, good to be back.
Right on. So long time no see or no talk. We've been in the back end, a couple of alchemists creating, which is my most fun thing to do ever. There's something, before we get started, there's something about creating versus consuming. Do you ever think like along those lines as a quite an accomplished creator yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big distinction.
Yeah, exactly. And so today we're going to be looking at the subject of sublimation and the possibility to sublimate in our lives. If you're not already familiar with Micah, he's, can I call you a brother? I was trying to figure out, there's like, so we're related.
On that.
What's that?
So I'll have to ask my mom.
Yeah, I have to ask your mom. Okay, all right. Well, she wants to adopt me. Let me know. And so if you're not already familiar with Micah, he is a filmmaker, an acting coach, and a teacher of Gurdjieff's work who actually combines all of that into the work that we've been doing recently. We're going to say more about that a little bit later. Today, we're going to dive into the subject of sublimation. I got kind of excited looking for a word. You might notice how all of the titles of Beth of Fresh Air are an action word, a kind of verb, a little bit of a directive, because people lack direction these days, right? The weirder things get out there, the harder it is to actually pick a direction and go in it and apply work there, right? It's not necessarily that people don't have the capacity to work. It's just they just don't know what to work at anymore. So that's where I feel like you and I fit in. And hello, welcome to Quietly Content Bear. Very nice to see you and have you here. If you have anybody you'd like to share this out with, I always appreciate that. It was funny. I was looking at my subs on YouTube the other day and they went up by 10 in like, I don't know, 6 weeks or something like that. And is it true? Are the numbers true? I don't know. It's always hard to tell.
Yeah, it's throttled for sure.
Yeah, we're in a completely different environment. I often go back into some kind of nostalgia when the internet was more organic, or it was entirely organic, right? If you did good stuff and you created things that people could make use of or were at least interested in, then you would get people in your direction. And they had all of the incentive at the beginning because they needed people on the internet. So they would reward you with those kind of cookies, which cookies means something different now. And as we know, it's always just to get you to a place of interest and even dependency. And then they want to switch it up on you. Like how many restaurants, they make an amazing dish with the best ingredients and they get people to order that. And then once it's popular, they degrade the ingredients or change things, find ways to cheap out. Many people don't notice, which is fascinating. Why do you think that is? Micah, people wouldn't notice.
Well, in the restaurant, they would be because they've already created like an association that it's amazing. And so in their mind, it's kind of like it's kind of like a gaslighting. They're under the spell that it's supposed to be awesome. They have an attachment to it at that point, and it's always been awesome. And so they just kind of think, well, maybe it's just me today because I know this dish. I mean, the fast food chains all did that, all of them. Over time, like none of the ingredients are the same. And you can, if you go overseas, to other countries, you'll see that the ingredients there are different than the ones we have here. Like even for the big franchises and stuff. So I think as long as we keep buying, I think movies have done that. Film has done that. Look, I'm watching a Star Wars movie. It's Star Wars, and it's like nothing like the original Star Wars. It just has the echo of it. It's, yeah.
Yeah, the veneer of it, right? And that's the interesting part with branding before we get into our subject today, that they can create an experience that is linked, like you said, associated, right there. So you've made an association
Mhm.
and maybe a belief system. This happens in the natural health world a ton, where you hear an influencer say, "Oh, this is a supplement, and you got to get on this," and then you have some experience and some improvement, or you feel better, or you feel high, when some version of that, and then when it stops working, you literally don't believe it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or if it starts hurting you, never mind. You won't even think about that because you already associate it as a healthy thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We have a investment bias, right? It's like one of our biases, and like cognitive dissonance. Like once you've invested so much in something, and then you've probably told everyone you know that it's amazing, and you're in denial. It's a denial. Yeah. I mean, they've done it anyway. It's happened throughout history over and over again. It happens in money. I mean, it used to be gold and silver were coins that were used. And then if you study like Roman history over time, the coins got a little bit less gold, a little bit less silver, until eventually there was none, right? And it's a subtle transition. And because of the momentum of the association, we keep going through the motions and saying, oh, yes, this is silver. But eventually the silver had no silver. It just was it happens in every capacity as long as we allow it to happen. And we're pretty good at allowing it to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm always the rebel. Just quickly say hello to Arta Sears in the room. So nice to see you all the time. And Elisa made it. I think you scaled tall buildings to get here today. And Miss Jillian is also in the space. So fantastic. Glad to have you guys. Yeah, I remember I was addicted to Starbucks and the coffee, and through my like child rearing days, where I suddenly became a almost religious coffee drinker. Not a lot, just enough so I didn't go into a coma every day. And then they changed their recipe, and I noticed. Nobody else seemed to notice. They get the same old thing, and then I would have to micro order it to get it back to the place where it used to be when it was good.
Mhm.
And it was, like trying to get the proportions and the space at the top and the extra shot to make it strong enough and blah. Luckily I'm over that now.
Yeah, but you notice, but not everybody does, and that's how it works. Like the bottom line is going to uh, create this denominator, and it'll go as low as we'll allow it to go. Statistically. I mean, you and I don't drink Starbucks coffee. Like it's very rare business trip, and then if I do, it's like maybe I get a blonde, you know, latte or americano or something like that. But I can't. It's disgusting. And but most people drink Starbucks coffee, and mostly they want the other stuff that goes with it. But it's a good example. Like, I mean, it's funny that when you go, if you buy, have you ever seen where they sell the beans for Starbucks?
No.
Like you can buy you can buy the bags of different types of beans yourself.
Oh yes, actually. Yeah.
So Pike's Place roast is actually the original Starbucks or closer to it.
Okay.
If you buy that from them and taste it, it tastes nothing like their current coffee. So it's like you can almost see right there, like, oh, this is what it used to be. And, but I'm paying $25 for this bag here. Instead, you're getting some kind of, coffee drivel, whatever it is. So, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And even if it came from the identical place on the earth, that earth might be raped of its
of course.
goodness already and stuff like that. So yeah, it's our world is all about the veneers, and so that's partly related to what we're going to talk about today. I had fun with this word sublimate, and we'll just go through a little bit. Yeah, imagine running on Duncan. Yeah, I think they're making a really big splash in Canada now. That we have one, but they're rolling out 20,000 of these stupid things. And yeah, obviously the market's there for it. So give the people what they want. But so we're here to sublimate today. I'll just read a couple of what related. Say the word sublime. It comes from the Latin sublimis, which means uplifted, lofty, exalted, elevated, and raised. I have a lot to say about that. I know we were, in fact, talking about this exact subject earlier, how it also can be a place of denial or suppression of reality. And it also said it's the quality of greatness, whether physical, moral, intellectual, metaphysical, aesthetic, spiritual, or artistic. And so, in that, just from that example, to tie it together, they're going with their aesthetics.
Yes.
Right, which can be where a business spends the vast majority of its money, is on that basic appeal. If you can look at that logo of that business and right away have an internal experience or promise of some greatness, this is really hard to put them behind that, but they still advertise that way. Isn't it funny how they can still get people with those grand messages?
It keeps working. I'm always at a marvel, like, they don't get me to leave my house and go to movies anymore, right? But I'm kind of a film snob and all that. Like, it doesn't happen. I don't go buy fast food either. I'm not trying to like dinner. If you do, that's fine. But it's just they don't have me, so I'm always like, I don't know who's falling for this. I mean, we don't have fast food. We have fast food science. That's what we have. It's not even food anymore. But it looks like that ties into aesthetic, right? Aesthetically, it's food. Aesthetic, let's include the taste as aesthetic taste. You eat a burger from the big box burger store, tastes kind of like a burger, right? I think everyone would agree it's not as good as a homemade one or a one from a like a mom and pop restaurant or something like that. But it's enough to where we're like, oh, it's a burger I'm eating, but you're actually not even eating that. You're eating the thing that's shaped like a burger and it smells like a burger and it kind of tastes like a burger, but it's actually not a burger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We live in this weird time that wasn't possible in the past. It's modern science that's really allowed us to do that. But you're eating thousands of synthetic chemicals that are tricking olfactory units to think that you're tasting the enzymes and amino acids that are in the meat, right? And you're getting all the nuances of the bun. The bun's basically sawdust. You know, right. The most ingredient in most bread, especially commercially produced like that, is sawdust, cellulose. You know, and then
right?
Yeah, and so on. So you don't, but it looks like bread, right? It looks like a bun. It feels like a bun, but it's not a bun.
Yeah. That's why it's so sad when you eat it. It's okay once, but like if you had to continue like that, I just go, yeah. I put it in my mouth and it's all fake and gay like that. Yeah. So the word sublimation also, like sublimation as a process, is if you get into the more physics side of things, is it or is maybe more chemistry? I wouldn't even know what to call this exactly, but I bet that it's caused by the absorption of heat. I'll treat that to be energy. So this is leading towards what we're going to talk about, which provides enough energy for some molecules to overcome the attractive forces of their neighbor molecules and escape into a vapor phase, and even skip steps that it wouldn't go through a liquid into vapor, which is a more normal process, but it would go right to a vapor. Speaking of a transformation of that state. And then Sublimate also is interesting. There's one of the meanings to modify the natural expression of a primitive or instinctual impulse in a socially acceptable manner. So that's loaded with all kinds of interesting bits in there. And it made me think of how, through the work that you've introduced me to of Gurdjieff, how that word natural has really taken on a new kind of a meaning. That it's not the romantic, aesthetic, desirable thing that we thought it was. And so to modify that natural expression with a caveat, not to bring it into a more socially acceptable manner, but to make it useful. I don't know. Is there anything to riff on there?
Making it useful. So like, I mean, it's completely natural to be torn apart by wolves in the wild. Like That's what our ancestors had to deal with.
Mm.
Like very natural experience. Nothing unnatural about it. Happened all the time. Um, it's natural to get dysentery from stagnant water, right? Like there are things like so. Sublimation is taking something towards a preferable or favorable. You're rearranging reality. Um, you're rearranging your environment to something that you can benefit from. I mean, a beaver sublimates the water by making a dam, and it does redirect the course of the stream. But would we say like a beaver is natural, right? It's a wild animal. So sublimation is like has to do with agency. And the more agency, like in a weird way, like bees are sublimating pollen to create honey. And so you see it is not it's part of nature, but it's not. There's nature. So in the octaves, like you have the descending octave, which is in the law of seven, which is basically entropy. And that kind of nature is what is horrendous to us. Things rotting, decaying, dying, accidents, right? Then there's a conscious like when you consciously are altering it, you're raising something up to where it can become useful or more beneficial. Yeah. So I think I know what you mean though. In the nature becomes nature is not good or bad, but you start to realize that nature has its own agenda.
Yeah, to eat us. Like at the end of the day, it wants our raw materials in the ground, having descended the octave and
Mhm.
decaying and feeding back into it. Like the moon also, right? I was looking
Yeah.
at the moon last night and playing with it a little bit and feeling the draw to feed the moon, like
Mhm.
it's sort of feeling the hunger of the moon. And at first I went into like, no, moon, you're not gonna get my louche. And then I reversed the flow, knowing that no is that now we're talking that Gurdjieff's lingo here, the second force.
Mhm.
And so I worked to neutralize it and said yes to the feeding, and it knocked the energy up. Is it, I don't know if a whole octave or a step or something like that. So you can, rather than just giving yourself over to nature
Mhm.
to be fed upon, you can start to play with that and observe in its effects.
Yeah, that's good. That's well said. So in a different way, like the way you talk about second force and not feeding the moon. Think about corporations. We are just talking about this aesthetic obsession that they have of tricking us into the veneer world, right? We think, oh, we're getting this thing, we're really getting a hollow version of it. That's their nature. A corporation's nature is mechanically that, right? So you can get mad if you get mad about it. What do most people do today? They complain like, oh, all these evil corporations and NGOs are running the world and they're harvesting us and all that.
Yeah.
You're now putting yourself below it instead of accepting it as its own force. It's its own ecosystem. Like it's always going to do that. That's what a corporation is. It means the corpus, the corpse. It's in when you get into like Black's law or legal speak, it's black magic, it's necromancy. It's a dead thing consuming to grow itself, and it doesn't have a soul, right? And corporations don't. And you used to work for one. You know how it is. It's like they just are chasing the bottom line. And when you accept that, it's kind of like accepting that the tiger in the jungle is going to be a tiger. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Say with the lines in the skies, I don't know if that's a censorable word or not. And at the beginning, when it became really prevalent here, I would yell at the sky. I would see it, I would look up, and I just, it got me. It really got me to cooperate with. It's exactly what that is driving, right? That's what the people who would create that kind of chaos in our world, that pollution, that toxicity in the sky, that they want, like that's in their favor. If I get mad at it and I lose all kinds of energy, what am I feeding in the process of it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anger, because like there's So look, like, so there's first the ignorance. The ignorance is where you're allowing the con to go on, which is what most people choose to do. I'm going to put my head in the sand and just pretend it's not there. You can walk outside and point to it and show someone, and then, but there's all the cope around it. No, it's this and that. And I won't say those buzzwords either, because those are real. Those are, the algorithm will spank you, if you say so. But then there's if you actually cognitively like accept it, that it's happening, that it's real, then then your backlash of anger can come up, or fear, dread, despair, because you're like, oh, I'm powerless, because it's covering the planet, right? Like you can't escape it. And then it can just feel so hopeless and defeating that you give into that, which is a type of program, right? Like you give into that operation, and they also want that. That's also good, right? So the ignorance is preferable, but then if you get mad about it, you're generating, what you use the word loosh, we've talked about that before, but you're generating an energy to be fed upon, in this case by the moon, right? And that's exactly, so it's a win-win. So it's like, oh, we win either way. The house wins on that one, right? And so the what they don't want is for you to accept it, and then without the emotional attachment.
Right, exactly. To accept it, to see the reality of it,
Mhm.
but not feed it, and that's that powerlessness that is registered, and
Mhm.
then without any guidance, without any learning or knowledge around this that we should all receive in our education one way or another, is the thinking that, oh well, I'm going to inject my power in the way of anger. Like it has this illusion that I'm somehow being powerful by
Mhm.
yelling at the sky. I don't recommend this, right? And it couldn't be. Can you describe why that just doesn't work? To to
Why,
try.
why expressing the anger, like that doesn't?
Yeah, yeah. Say when you're suffering a sense of powerlessness, and this is so relevant today because we have many things that are tumbling down into, making us less and less. It doesn't make us less and less powerful, but certainly I think people are more identifying with feeling powerless around it.
Oh yeah, I think we're living in a time period now where the black pill is the most seductive,
Yeah.
right? Just it all sucks, everything's over. It's kind of it's like a nice, comfortable nihilism, right? Of like, I'm allowed to escape into creature comforts because it's not even possible for me to change this, which is actually true. You see, so the seduction of that is you are not going to stop the little cotton candy trails in the blue yonder, right? Like, and in fact, if you go down to your local, like let's say you go to whatever governance is available to you locally, and you complain about it and you petition, they can't do anything about it either, because it's even beyond them. So it feels It's like it feels like the pollution that we're under, Wi-Fi, the 5G, all these things feel like impossible. So the only solution then is to go to a place of coping, right? But there is another alternative. And the other alternative is to accept it and then do what you can. What do you have agency over? But we're not taught that, because, as infants, we learn to scream and cry, and then mommy and daddy come and help us, right? So that's really deeply imprinted when we feel powerless. As an infant, you truly are powerless. You cannot take care of yourself. And at the deepest core level, that's what we want to do. We want mommy or daddy to come and save us. But with this, there is no mommy and daddy to come and save you anymore. And so then, therefore, we just go into these kind of learned coping responses. And some of it, the black pill is, I already know everything is hopeless. So therefore, tequila.
Yeah,
Right,
tequila is.
right, right. It's like or whatever it is. The point is, like, um, we have to see that there's another option, but that option requires us to not have control, because we're not going to stop the thing. It's like nature. You're not going to stop nature, but can you do something knowing how nature operates? It's in a way like, if you go into the wilderness, can you build a house? You actually can. You're working against nature to do it. Does that make sense? Like you're okay, there's trees around, I have some dirt, I have some rock. You're using ingenuity to create something so sublimate the land for yourself, right? And but what does that cost you? It costs you the fantasy of mommy and daddy coming to save you, or it costs you the hedonistic fantasy of all I have to do is self-medicate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
instead, you have to roll up your sleeves and do something about it. But what can you do? What do you have agency over, right? And then that's the reality. Is like you're not going to solve. You're not going to stop the nature as a whole. But you can work with it. You see, you can accept it. But until you accept it, you can't work with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So one of the root programs you already are aware of tells you to want control.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the bottleneck is. Like the energy goes and it stops, and then it just goes on repeat, wanting control and wanting control and wanting control and wanting control. And that can actually be the expression of it can flip into wanting to be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start to somewhere feed off of the attacks and the trails or whatever it is, the assaults that you somewhere unconsciously are actually wanting that to control you and limit you, so you don't have to exercise agency, so you don't have to build out something and continue to stop it from being eaten by nature over time, right? It won't even just be one and done. So yeah, it's a tricky situation, but I love what you're saying. There's another option that requires us to, it comes back to the serenity prayer, like to be at peace with what you cannot control, and then act where you do have control and let go of wanting control, because that's useless.
Yeah.
It's worse than useless. Yeah.
Yeah. But the ego, which all the false personalities, that's how they operate, is this illusion of control, and then that they seduce you into that. They're not interested in any situation that doesn't revolve around control to a degree, right? Like so it's an all or nothing. It's kind of like a bratty child. It's like, oh, I either am fully in control or I don't want it at all, right? In the like in the new age movement, you're either this powerful manifester that can manifest anything you want whenever you want just by wanting it, you see, or you're like kind of nihilistically detached. And instead of the reality is that no, you actually do have to do some work, and you do have to take some risk and put some effort in. We don't want to believe that, because the fantasy part, that's the false personality, it just wants everything to be immediate now, grandiose, right? And it doesn't. So I don't think it even likes the word sublimation.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sublimation requires energy. That's what you keep saying. And he's like, that you have to put the work in yourself in the right direction. Before we get any further, I just wanted to acknowledge a few comments, because we're going to get out of the topics. And Emil, welcome. Nice to see you here. I'm glad you're around. He says there's so much information available online, so unless one is spending dollars to get views, it's easy to be overlooked. Info is a business. Yeah, very, very well aware of that. And even, I mean, that was ruined a long time ago too, in terms of just investing. You there was a time where you could buy ads on Facebook or whatever, and it would work. But we're in a different, I mean, I haven't tried that for a long time, but I hear what you're saying. Jillian said the videos with sliced bread being run under the tap and not dissolving. Yum. Micah says it's just cellulose, like sponges. Yep. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. I never want to eat that stuff. For now I know why. She also said corpses are about decomposition, moving towards deterioration, except for those that feed off the products of decomposition. Maybe some have just adapted to benefit from that. It reminds me of how they've managed to sell us so much garbage, like the cellulose, like protein powder, like table salt. Like those are all byproducts of industrial processes. And so the whole thing, feeds on death. And hello, Michelle. So nice to see you. You left something beautiful in the House of Free Will chat not too long ago. And you've been looking forward to this time. I'm so glad. And yes, the wisdom to know the difference. And wait, did someone call me? I heard bratty child. Very good. And Jillian was asking, is the initial program in that series not that everything can be controlled? This is a good question to be clarified, I think. So do you want to respond first, Micah?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I go on the premise, right or wrong, that we are in control, not in control of each other, not in control of the cosmos, not in control of every element of everything, like some of the law of attraction people might tell you. But we have full faculty to be in control. Whether we do that or not is a whole different question. But do we have the potential for that? That's my awareness. And then the programming comes along to, no matter how much you are the operator of your system, the program will tell you that you need to want that you lack that, you must chase that, you must effort in that direction to get what you don't have. And so to me, that's the lie, that you're already in control. Wanting it is a lie, and you lose energy to that and feed, as Micah would say, the false personalities. Is there anything you would either say differently or add to that?
I mean, there's trying to think of the name of the film. I think it's with Anthony Hopkins. Is it called Instinct? What is the name? Maybe if somebody in the chat knows. It was a film with him and Cuba Gooding Jr. where he was a scientist that was studying gorillas in the deep jungle. Do you know this film?
I don't think so, no.
Is it? Why can I think of the name of it? I should know the name. Anyway, he gets lost and disappears and winds up becoming like feral and living with the gorillas. And later on, the Cuba Gooding Jr. character is like an attorney representing him because he was like arrested. He did some violent things. They put him in prison, and he's not acting like a normal civilized human anymore. He's extremely violent. But there's a scene, a climactic scene where Cuba Gooding Jr. finally asks the security to leave and gets alone in the office room with him, and he's like trying to connect to him. And it is instinct. Okay, thank you, Julian. Yeah, instinct. And so Anthony Hopkins is now this dangerous half feral ape man, right? And he runs around and he choke. And it's a spoiler, so if anybody hasn't seen the film, like plug your ears.
La la la.
Yeah, including Beth. 26 seconds. Sorry. But he basically, when he's choking him out, and he gets Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins gets Cuba Gooding Jr. and he's like, "What have I taken from you?" And at first he wants to say control. And then he's like, no, and he chokes him harder. And then he finally writes out on a piece of paper, "My illusions." Right. And the point is, he was coming from that very natural perspective of, you don't have control. You only have the illusion of control. The false person, think about it. If you're a multi-billionaire, when you die, you've lost all control of your wealth, all control of your reputation, all control. So it's always a temporary illusion. You know what I mean? No matter how much you mustered in life. And so that's the only thing I would add to that, is that it's the ultimate illusion that we have this level of control. But that's what all the false personalities feed on. They're dependent on it. They all have a fantasy and sometimes that fantasy is validated for a period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we fail to exercise the control that we do have, right? Mm-hmm. To apply the work, right? Go like your example before, that go black-pilled instead of doing something positive and good in the world, and growing your own capacity and your own spirit. Mm-hmm. And so yeah. But I get where you're coming from with that. And hello, Mrs. AC1M11. Nice to see you. And yes, we own nothing. Exactly. There's just nothing to hold on to. What about the growth of the being, that like the growth of the essence that you're able to cause in the exercise of letting false personalities go, however you want to say that. Is there anything that you keep of that, or would you, do you have any guess? I know we're getting way off on the esoteric side there. Not esoteric, but mystery side, I guess.
Yeah, you're saying, how does that relate to the idea of growing essence?
Yeah, like do you hold on to that, or is there any? Is it lost when you die?
So everything in the personality is lost. There is no personality past death. That is that's the thing. The thing that we think matters the most is the effigy. It is the veneer, right? But essence is eternal, right? Like, in the point is, you invest, like, that's the whole store up for yourself treasure in heaven, right? Where moth cannot eat and rust cannot decay, or whatever translation you want to use, right? Where you have the option to do that, but that's not what we naturally are drawn to. Like, life draws us into life things, right? Money, wealth, fame, ego, status, right? All of those things, right? And also, I was just gonna say real quick, thank you to Jillian for looking that up. I forgot I could look at the actual chat, so I just did, and I kind of glanced through all the chats, and then I appreciate that. And then I think I was just making sure I didn't miss anybody's question, if that's okay. But thanks for saying that. And then, yeah, I think we're good. Go ahead.
Oh, Jillian did have a side question. Does everything need to be controlled? This is leading a kind of where we're headed here. Is it not acceptable, even beneficial in its native state?
No, you can't control so again, like, think about it this way. You're making a garden. Are you controlling nature? Nature's still in control the entire time. You're working with nature, aren't you? You're not making the grass. You have to weed the weeds. You're not making the flowers grow or the crops, whatever you're working on. You're choosing what you have agency and understanding of to work with alongside nature. You're still not this is the illusion, is that we're still in control. Like, all the gene therapy scientists and all that stuff, they think, oh, I'm going to become God and control nature. You're never going to do that, because that's a law that you can't change. Nature's based, it's foundational. Like, when the Gurdjieff work, at the biological plane, that's the 48 laws, right? You can't change those, but you can work with them. You can work around them. You can make choices inside. You're in the game, so you're inside the game. You can't choose to leave the game, right, and change the rules of the game. The game's rules are the game's rules, right? But you get to play it. That makes sense.
Quick aside, what would Gurdjieff have said about suicide?
Oh,
You said you can't leave the game. Okay,
so you can physically check out of reality via suicide, but you can't change the rules of the so what I meant is, you can't say, oh, I don't want the game to exist, I'm going to play it a different way. It just is what it is. So you could commit suicide, and that would take you immediately out of this current incarnation, right? But that doesn't mean that all the rules go away. There's still rules that you're under. You just aren't in biological life rules for that moment, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Did Gurdjieff have a concept of reincarnation? It sort of seems like it, but I can't say for sure.
He didn't. That was the thing that Ouspensky always hounded him about, and really wanted to know, in Ouspensky called recurrence. He hinted at it, like even in Beelzebub's Tales, the idea that it's his sixth sojourn on the earth, right? The different. He said it's more important to just focus on this life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, I think he did. There's more I could probably say, but I don't know if it would be appropriate. I think it's that we don't have a proper understanding of because here's the problem with the idea of reincarnation is now once you think about reincarnation, you kind of got off the hook again.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that I sucked this time. I'll have a million more chances, you know, and I have to go back to being a butterfly again. I'll be a butterfly and I'll be a good one. And, you know, it's our personality wants to like quickly attach to that, you know, like, you know, that idea of like false personality is fed from the trough or the pulpit. It looks at everything. It's hungry. It's going to take anything and use it. So he did. I think that overall that it does occur, but it's not the way, not exactly in the way that you're commonly taught. Like the common, like in like Indian perspective, I don't think is the same as that Gurdjieff understood.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, exactly. And like ACM or AC1 M11 says, who knows where that actually leads, right? Like it's nobody's been able to report back from that experience. So yeah. Michelle said, that's so true. That's where becoming a good steward becomes so important when it comes to leaving a legacy by the departed, because they certainly won't be taking it with them. Yeah. Yeah. And they can get attached. I think you've said this before, Micah, in some contexts, that you know, the personality can be the false personality can be so strong that it wants to project beyond its own death and continue to exist into time, right? Like I think a lot of leaders have done that.
Yeah. That's why legacy is so tempting.
Mm-hmm,
you know, to leave a legacy of the greatest this of all time, right? The greatest that of all time. But eventually, like, if think of it this way, like if the earth has been through a previous resets, which it has, you know, certainly like well established in the Gurdjieff work, there's nothing to remember from the times before. And at some point there won't even be the etching of the memory of, you know, of you. Like, think about, we find artifacts today all the time. We don't even know what they mean. So like, is that a legacy? You know,
not so much.
Eventually it all goes away. So like, we have to accept that. And that's part of the driving force of the modern world, is this idea that you're going to have mattered, right? I changed this. I changed the world of painting permanently. Well, maybe you did for a time, but eventually even that goes away. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or corporate, you know, management. False personality is addicted to that. And that's what drives a lot of people's lives. And it's very seductive. And it feels like it's like the last desperate attempt of the personality to cling on.
Mm-hmm, exactly. When in reality, like, you know, when I get down to those moments, it's like, yeah, I don't have a clue who I am or where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and then what kind of legacy is that going to actually create? So yeah, really good points. Janet, I always forget it's Janet. Nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here. All right. There was one thing I was wanting to wonder. I was already wondering. So the Gurdjieff work talks about a food system, which is part of that realization that you're not in control, that you've got those that feed on you, you've got those that you feed on. First of all, is that related to the octaves?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the conscious shocks that happen so you have your do, re, mi note, and then you have the mi, fa, which is the first shock that has to happen. And so like on the piano, there's no black key there, meaning there's no natural progression from those two notes. It takes an outside influence to skip it, which means you have to either eat or be eaten by something else at that point. And in the conscious ascension of the octave would be serenity. So in the serenity prayer, you know, we found, you know, we surrender to what we can't control, and we ask for a higher power to help us. Right? That's the kind of the subtext of the serenity prayer, and
that brings more energy to make that leap. Is that it?
It's not that it does; it's that you allow that to come in. So you're saying, so like Gurdjieff would say, everything is either going to be eaten or is eating, but also is either being prepared to be eaten or preparing to eat. And so there's preparing to be eaten yourself by a higher power, right? It's like, do you want, what do you want to feed on you? Do you want it to be like, for simplicity's sake, like an archangel, or do you want it to be some lower astral demonic thing?
Hard
What,
choice.
yeah, yeah. That's the reality is, because like you said, the the potato that is cooked is a smarter potato because it can be digested by a human.
That's deep.
Yeah, it's kind of like, so.
I like that. Yeah, and that's where like a great deal of, I find, softening is coming, where there was a lot of anger about being part, not even having the understanding about being part of a food system and being vulnerable to all these messages of more, being in control of things that you're not. And I find the net effect of allowing myself to be part of this food chain is relaxation. And you already started to intimate towards this, that like preparing to be eaten in a conscious way. What what could that look like? What does that mean?
Well, first of all, like it would, we have the illusion of being the apex predator on Earth, right?
Mhm.
And in all of mankind's illusions, we're the top, we're the tip of the spear, we're the most advanced. It's like we're the most advanced humans that have ever existed. We're the most powerful. False personality loves that crap, right? So there's already a humility that kind of takes you into realizing, okay, there are other things that are above me, right? We don't like that. Like that really stings the ego a lot. It stings a lot of people's worldview. It freaks them out. They want to, because what sacrificed their control, right? What if you are, it's kind of like accepting, well, what if you are an animal in someone else's farm? Then you only have so much agency, but it's surrender. Like, so you're surrendering to that. That can become empowering when, in the same way that anyone that has a pet that's in despair, what happens if the pet, like, say it got something like a piece of glass in its paw, like you have a cat and that happened and it came to you and it surrendered to you, you could help it. It may not be able to help itself. Help is there, but we have to do our part to align with it and come to it. Because otherwise, if the cat's not going to show you the shard of glass and it's not going to come to you, you wouldn't know. Right.
You couldn't help it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the context of the like being eaten, which is, yeah, like availing yourself to that. Or am I thinking about this?
No, you're right. No, the difference is we're okay. So when we say eaten, it's just too easy to think like, oh, I'm going to let something bite my arm off, right? In a purely biological sense, but the higher plane doesn't eat biology, right?
The earth does.
Correct. So
Yeah.
like that, this is where where the intellect struggles with it. There is a part of you that can be cultivated that can serve as food for greater consciousness. You see, you can create a honey that they can consume.
Right. And honey connotating something like nourishing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like you store up as a supply. I'm just giving an example. Like we know bees, they go and they make honey, right? In fact, like even the Sarmun Brotherhood, that word means keepers of the sacred honey.
And who is the Sarmun Brotherhood? If you want to
let
me know.
Oh,
That is Gurdjieff. That is Gurdjieff. Okay.
Yeah. What was
yeah.
the Essene Brotherhood, like, which is where like Jesus came from? He was an Essene.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard this a few times. Just
Yeah.
to ask again.
No, good. I have a tendency of assuming that I'm glad you asked. That's good.
And so this is like the ultimate, like there's the humility of that, right? Like that you are here to feed others, and it's going to happen one way or another. It's either going to happen with your negative outbursts, like you said, feeding demons, or you're going to bring something nice like honey for the higher beings. And the, like, say, the definition of sublime and sublimation, bringing you of higher nobility is baked in there, the majestic qualities as an adjective of sublime, and then the always the promise of greatness, right? Don't you think the vast majority of people get into some kind of personal development or spiritual work with the idea that it's going to make them great?
That's the main reason why people do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main reason. I was looking back through the chat or trying to keep up, but I think is it Niacus? I don't know how to say the name.
That's
Niacus.
Michelle. Yeah.
Michelle, okay. Healthy food for others or toxic consumption by others. Exactly. I think that what Beth was saying, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Like we're trying to take responsibility for that. It's part of the infrastructure of life. It's kind of like, every person has to eat something at some point. Some people can eat less, different things, but at the end of the day, we all need that fuel source. And when you accept that that's baked into the hierarchy of our existence, you can become more intentional about what you're choosing to feed. Like you were saying, like, because in the same aspect of like a teacher being connected to the student, the thing that's feeding on you, you also share connection with. And think about the idea of like, not to go too far off into demonic attachment. Well, that's coming because somebody has gotten into a very, very negative state that is feeding something that can only eat that. And then and that is affecting them. It's not like it's not without consequence, right? And so you realize that there are things that can feed off of you, but it's almost in the idea of sublimating you to a higher level.
To a higher level.
Yeah.
To let the lower being feed off you is,
or the opposite. You surrender to a higher power that feeds off of you the same, but you're okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have that automatic association, if something's feeding off us, that's like, predacious or wrong or taken away. But yeah, I'm finding a lot of restfulness in this, just seeing myself as part of this food chain, really, for lack of a better way to say it.
Because we are, whether we want to believe it or not. I mean, it's inevitable when you die. Like from a biological standpoint, there's at least going to be bacteria eating you, if not worms, right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
exactly. And you get down to the microbes of it, how they know there's like certain mites live on your eyelashes and are going to, and there's all kinds of things around that are feeding off all the skin that we shed all day long. And if you let yourself see that stuff, it can literally freak you out, or parasites that are cleaning up the metals in your body and all of these, it's just a constant. It seems the design of this realm is based on these food systems.
That's because our mind wants to go into black and white, good and evil all the time. It's like,
exactly.
Is the tiger good or evil?
That's right.
Is the lamb good or evil? Is the caterpillar good and evil? Good or evil? And then, but we like to do that in our mind. Like we like to think, oh well, tiger kills innocent animals, it's evil. But there are some people that don't feel that way about tigers. Just because it can eat you, does that make it good or evil?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is nature doesn't work in the binary way that our intellect does. The intellect, the logic plane. See, this is where like computers. A computer is a binary processing instrument. It's ones and zeros. Everything is black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. But that's not nature. Nature doesn't work that way. And that's why you can't use a computer to describe nature.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great point. I like it. Let's see if we missed anything here. Jillian said you were just thinking about that the ego part of you would want to give any, would ego part of me would want to give any lower dimensionals that try to feed on my belly ache. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it is in a strange way backwards. Like the ego wants the negative food. It wants that, right? Like you said, that the false personalities literally depend on giving them the false, or not the false, but the say negative emotions, of which they all are until you're done with those, and can go into what's I guess called positive emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the bottom line, is that we can choose who to feed and what to feed them. So yeah, that's where our responsibility comes in. Jillian also said redevelopment work that can be simply to find reason or potential reason and structure. Do you want to say more about that? Maybe she just did. Being fed on can feel palpable often, and we have the choice to withdraw foodstuffs, especially when it comes to negative thought forms. Yeah, exactly. Just making our thought forms conscious. Yeah, this year I've been more aware of that. Every time a little snit comes up, it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeding somebody I don't really want to be right now. Yes, that was a beautiful point about describing the 0-1, 0-1 not being able to describe nature, to repeat that.
Yeah.
And Janet's asking, what about addiction? What is that feeding?
Well, negative emotions are they have there's always the bittersweetness, because they're a polarity, actually. So when we say negative emotion, it doesn't mean the way you think of a negative emotion naturally, like, oh, sadness is a negative emotion, right? Or anger or something. It's that understanding that they all are a pendulum swing. And so higher emotions that are only accessible to the higher emotional body, which is the whole point of the Gurdjieff work, is to awaken that, right? Um, in the Christ teachings, it's being born again, right? There's another part of you that can enter the kingdom, that where that's also, not to get like too far off, but it's like the idea of that in that place they're neither male nor female, nothing, no one's given in marriage. It breaks the binaries down. Like, we have the binary experience in our incarnate reality, but there's actually a higher plane in which there's not opposites. So a negative emotion is kind of like a shadow of that, and that's where like in Beth's work, they're all connected. You think like apathy and peace are different, but they're the pendulum swing on each side. And so addiction feeds the hedonistic archetype. It does that. I mean, addiction itself is just, I mean, think about it. Like, addicted to what? There's always a something, and it's not the thing, it's what the thing does. What does an addiction do? All it ever is a temporary escape. And it gives you a sense of control, because like, when I do this thing, like if you're a gambling addict, when you go and you put it all on red, you feel a heightened sense of amazingness for whatever 32 seconds until the ball stops, and then it might be a terrible experience, right? But for that one moment, you knew for sure how you were going to feel. You were going to have the hope and the dream, and oh my God, and then it hits the 00 green, and you start crying or whatever, or you go to the ATM and you double down. And it's like, if it's a substance, you know exactly what that substance. It can be comfort food. Like, I know when I eat this big bowl of pasta, I'm going to feel all warm and fuzzy, and then I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to wake up and probably hate my life some more. So I better get some more noodles going, right? It's like, the idea is that the addiction is just coping. That's all it is. I don't know that addiction is just the cope that you know.
That's a good definition. Yeah, you mentioned the hedonist archetype, and we can go deeper into that as well. That the hedonist in particular is driven by emptiness, which to many people might not be seen as. It's very hard to identify emptiness, actually. Why? Because there's nothing there. It's like there's nothing to hang on to. It doesn't have the classic feeling of the emotions of sadness or fear or lust or anger or pride. It doesn't have that vibe. It's so low on the scale. It's empty. Literally, you feel empty. And then the addiction promises to fill it,
Yeah.
to get rid of, like coping with the emptiness, trying to not have that emptiness, filling it with something. And then my experience is that when you fill emptiness, it becomes more empty.
Hmm. Yep.
And then it perpetuates, oh, I must need more, back to what we were talking about with the Starbucks, where you have this belief because some of those copes work really well at first. If you're always have crappy energy and someone says, well, just drink coffee already. So you have a coffee and you're like, oh my God, I'm so alert and I can get lots done. And then you'll notice over time how that cope just won't work. And it'll come to a point where that coffee drains the life out of you. But you still are in the idea that it's going to fill you up. So yeah,
Yes.
it's and the emotions that you're suppressing, which is one of the things that emptiness does,
Hmm.
right? They feed the most.
Hmm.
It's not the conscious
Hmm.
feelings that feed. Once you're conscious of it, then you can like, some choice in the matter here. What do I do? What experience am I going to manufacture in response to whatever? And so those unconscious feelings are the really potent feeders of the negative energy, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that. I think I think that we're we just associate the problem is because we can't get past our sensory feelings, like the immediacy of them. So it's like in the moment, oh no, I'm suffering, I'm miserable, I'm in pain, I'm in anxiety, I'm in depression. Well, for sure, like I said, if anything that winds up becoming addictive, it works. It takes you out of that at some point. You wouldn't be addicted to it if it didn't,
Hmm.
right? Like, and that's the point. Like, this is where the addiction, now often it causes us to have to keep upping the ante, right? More drugs, more dosage, more gambling, right? More whatever it is, more adrenaline, junkying. Um, but you start to realize like the only solution is to face the thing you're trying to escape, which will hit one of the programs for sure, because usually you're gonna feel like you're gonna die. It's like the pain is so bad, I can't look at it, I can't face it. Um, in fact, I actually think that most people's lives are an addiction.
Say more about that.
Well, think about it. You develop an addiction to your personality, to a belief system, to a community. All these things are to plug holes. Because when you do them all, like you do the thing, you do all the things, whatever the thing is, not realizing that it's really just an addiction, that it doesn't feel like one because everybody else does it. And it's not like you're shooting up in the alley, right? So you're like, oh, I'm good. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is covering up from an existential dread um, that people don't want to face. So they're addicted to have a sense of certainty. That I think you could almost be certain of. but it feels good to feel like you have basically life figured out, a pattern figured out. What's scary is like when you were saying earlier, like I don't even know who I am, right? Like it's terrifying, these things, and that's personality doesn't like that. The world doesn't like that. It's considered like a no and off limits.
Exactly. Yeah, you said a lot about the certainty. That is a major addiction right there, and that's been engineered, that we're addicted to certainty. There was one I got the clue from somebody. I'll remember his name soon, but I started to see how certainty and uncertainty were two sides of the same coin. You actually couldn't have one without the other. It could very well be the masculine is the certainty, the feminine is the uncertainty, and they're always going to coexist.
Mhm.
So by trying to convince us that we should be certain all the time, that this is a desirable, because who wants to work with somebody who's always uncertain like that? that wouldn't make any sense. They wouldn't be seen as a credible source. But
Mhm.
the real power in that is being able to now, like what would be the way to sublimate that is this the right way to use the word even, but like to apply sublimation rather than just keep on giving over to the addiction. No pressure.
Good. Yeah. Um, Let me write a thesis and I'll, no,
Yeah.
so, okay. In the, it's no, so animals are closer to essence because they don't develop the types of personalities that we develop. So they stay closer to the initial essence that they're in. If you look at and observe an animal, it doesn't have a lot of certainty. It feels okay right now. Oh, my belly's full. I'm in a comfortable place. Maybe I'm in the sun. That feels nice. It has no idea the bigger picture of where it doesn't understand even its habitat at any kind of large capacity. Like we have to fully try to understand everything, right? And it can live with that uncertainty. It only needs to be certain of a few things here and there. Like, hey, I'm hungry. What am I eating? I'm going to eat this. We have such a massive, like expansive need for certainty that it keeps us entirely from essence. Essence lives in a place of faith.
Mm-hmm.
You see, like there is no, like this is where it's like care not for yourself about the worries of this world, right? It's like we're worried about food and clothing and all that, and I'm not saying those things aren't important, but that state of mind that's worried about all that is not the essence at all. And so the animals show us what it's like to have less of a personality, to have more of a beingness, to be a little bit more grounded in the essence of what you are. Your job isn't to control it. Is the tiger's job is to be the tiger. And the difference is we are given more agency if we choose to take the call, like the prodigal son. Like, are we going to come back and seek our birthright, or are we going to keep going out and squandering it, right? And so that's kind of the dilemma that we're in. Is it's easy to stay in the world of personality, which we're all addicted to, which society is in fact built on top of. Everything is about enforcing it. Most movies, most entertainment, culture, TV shows, it's all just reinforcing that. So we're all reinforcing the addiction together. That's a hard situation. It's kind of like if you were going to quit drinking but you still stay in the bar and talk to other people during happy hour about why you shouldn't drink, right? Like you're just surrounded by the exact, we're in an environment perfect for the very thing that that we would hope to escape. And so that's kind of, I guess, the short answer. Do you feel like that I answered it? I'm not sure if I did.
Yeah, it was one of those impossible questions. So I think you did really well with that. And so you and I were talking about archetypes earlier, and how, say, with Gurdjieff's work, the Enneagram has been taken completely out of context and turned into a personality quiz. And I have my own personality quiz, the King Hero quiz, which I have, that it's a surface level. So if you guys haven't done it, you can go to my website, you can sign up to find out. In 10 minutes, you can answer questions and get this answer, an aspect. Now, some people might think that this is so that I could know who I am. Is like, no, that is not the purpose of it. So if there's any illusion that you'll find out who you are in identity, that's not it. What I hope you'll find is your gifts and your shadows. Mm-hmm. And especially the shadows, because that's the place where you can apply the work, where they could be sublimated into life force, into essence, mm-hmm. and greater freedom from identification with any particular archetype. So, as usual, the tool of the archetype is to be free from the tool, or be free from the archetype, and being not so bound to it. And this is the thing I was going to repeat today that I said in the notes, that those people who have developed themselves to a greater extent, who've grown their essence, they become less typable.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable and beautiful too. There's also people that express really clearly through archetypes, but you can tell they're not bound to them. They're not attached. They're just riding a kind of wave of some kind.
Mhm.
And so, it can play on people's what is that where they're addicted to. They'll do this quiz and then they'll go do that quiz, and then they want to get a diagnosis for their physical, and they want to get somebody to tell them what their mental thing is and who they are on the human design. Oh, I'm a generator, and therefore now I know and I'm certain about that. So where does that take people sideways and missing the opportunity for actual transformation?
So the problem is there, it's going to fall on the false personality is going to feed on anything. So when you do all that, you get this aha moment of, oh my gosh, I know my zodiac sign now, and I understand, or I know you said, yeah, I'm a manifesting generator in the uh, human design, or I'm a 3 wing 4 on the Enneagram personality study, and or any of that stuff, and it feels good. The problem is whether or not it's right. So for example, like you were saying, you could use the archetype to look at your shadow or to look at your gifts, but the real point would be to transcend the archetype, to accept it. You can accept it first and then go, oh, okay, this kind of explains where I'm at or the energy I'm in. So then you want to actually work on yourself to where you become free from it. There's actually a freedom, but knowing where you are is it's like being on a map, and it's like, oh, okay, I see I'm here on the map. Cool. The problem is that we want to identify with everything very quickly. So we want to think, and everybody knows this, like, you and I've talked about, like, if somebody's really into like astrology, they figure out their sign. They want to know everybody's sign immediately, and then they got them all figured out. Like, oh, okay, you're a Capricorn. Oh, I see now. Now it all makes sense. And then they've got this mental framework, you being a Capricorn, and then really you're not free to not be a Capricorn in their mind. And if they're a Gemini, they have to be a Gemini no matter what. And I can't help it that I lied to you because I'm a Gemini and I'm two-sided. And you see, it just, the false personality uses anything. It'll use it all. It doesn't matter if that stuff is real or not. It can use any truth at all. There's no such thing as a truth that it can't use. That's what you have to realize, is that it exists inside of you and it's always wanting to feed. Are you feeding it? Are you feeding it? So I mean, yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, I was trying to read some of the responses there, but
Yeah. Michelle's last comment. I know it's a cliche to say, but becoming the change you want to see in others, it works, facilitates change in perspective. Absolutely. And yeah, she also said that's where you learn to change the environment you're in when escaping it is not an option. That's where you deprogram and clean up your environment, your thoughts and your reactions to them. Exactly. The environment you actually can clean up. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I have one more thing to say about this. We cling to, so the archetype. So in our normal response, like the normal base, kind of it's almost at an animalistic level. When something hurts us, we look to blame. It's one of the first lightning fast things. We do it so fast, we trick ourselves into believing it. And probably everyone can relate to it. They feel that impulse. As soon as something bad happens, it's like, I should not have listened to this person, or I shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have done that to me. You know what I mean? Like immediately, that's where the mind wants to go first. So the way we identify is the archetype gives us something to blame.
More sophisticated, though.
Much more sophisticated, or just like the zodiac sign can, like, oh, yes, I can't help it that I was abusive because I'm a fire sign, and when I get mad, that's how it comes out. In the ego loves that. The false personality, it absolutely loves it, because now it has an excuse to blame instead of take responsibility. So you should use that information. Like if you took the archetype quiz on your website to take ownership of your own crap, right? Like,
Right.
oh, I do this a lot. I'm kind of, you see, like, but that's not what our ego wants to do. Instead, it's like, oh, this is why this relationship didn't work out. It was their fault because they were this sign and I'm this sign. And it's like all of a sudden now there's no responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's an addiction to this way to let that responsibility go ultimately. That you're like, oh yeah, not me again. It's that astrology sign.
Mhm.
You were telling me earlier how Gurdjieff was it Ouspensky was always trying to get him to talk about astrology and archetypes and that kind of thing.
He would more hounded him a lot about like those bigger questions, but Gurdjieff didn't want to reveal all of the actual archetypes. He did say that the archetypes were real, that we were born through essence. They come in like it's kind of like our flavor, our color bent, where we come into the world. But he felt like it was more. It's kind of like giving adult tools to children that will treat them as toys, right? It's like, let's not, because he knew like if I give too much information about this way, people will just use it to enable themselves to fantasize and imagine and blame and identify and all that. So he didn't ever go into detail. He said at one point there were like 27 of them, but
Right.
he didn't really describe them.
Right. Oh, that would just be so interesting to get into his brain about that. And, given that you know how to use it, right? Like Michelle, I just put that comment up that she sees archetypes as a jumping board rather than a way to rationalize
Mhm.
the shadow and hold personalities up. And so, yeah, it's perfect. And then the archetype really fades in a way. It becomes, yeah, I was joking how people, myself included, I will be so attracted to archetypes, but it's the wrong part of me that's attracted to it. It is that more of the addiction part. But when I get there, now I'm smart enough to use it for freedom rather than self building up my identity. Rather,
Mhm.
it's more for reducing the load of the identity.
Yeah.
And so it's
You have to learn to play it though. Like I think at first you have to accept it.
mhm.
Like, okay, I'm an alchemist right now. Okay, I've been in this alchemist space my whole life. I get you. Then you have to really learn to accept it and like embody it at first, so that you can. The goal would be then to sublimate it to a higher place.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because you can't sublimate what you don't notice,
Right.
what
That's right.
you're not aware of. Right.
Right.
So that's always going to be that first step.
Mhm.
Yeah. So very cool. Um, so yeah, I don't know if there's anywhere else. Let's see. We're by the way, Micah's going to be back with me on Monday, and this will be a King Hero interview with Roy Wooten and a guy I haven't met yet, KG or Kerry Green, another musician. We're going to go deeper into the hero's journey, and I was noticing how like the four of us all have a different place in this work. You've come at the hero's journey through film work, but you're much taking it much deeper with the work through Gurdjieff and how I'm watching you apply your acting coaching in the class that we're doing, and so it's going to be a really fun sublimation of kinds, right? That there's going to be some kind of distillation that will come through it that will give greater self-remembering is to me like the ultimate goal, that
Mhm.
people realize who they are. So I just want to make sure people know that's Monday at noon. And so one of the things that in terms of say like growth patterns that people show,
Mhm.
so archetypes can often show why growth isn't happening. Where are the stuck points? Where are those identifications and repetitions of patterns? But growing is also a pattern and follows certain sequence. Is there ways in the application of Gurdjieff's work that you can harness that, like with the Fibonacci, or is it how would octaves be used in that context?
Like inside of like working with an archetype.
Not necessarily, but like say, if you already know that your goal is to grow your essence to gain greater agency and freedom,
Yeah.
then the patterns of growth and how I think this was something that I mentioned this morning around there are certain points of growth
Yeah.
that people would come into my work. I'll just say whatever my work, and they might have a feeling of success
Mhm.
in a first step and even a second step,
Mhm.
and then a next step. It seems like a bigger leap, and it is a bigger leap.
Yeah.
Say in my archetype system that like going from the hedonist to the king on that journey, that's a very big leap,
Yeah.
right? So much so that you can't even see the relationship.
Mhm.
Unlike say the rebel and the warrior, there's a very short, like it's a natural flowing into. It
Mhm.
doesn't take a huge amount of energy to go from rebel to warrior
Mhm.
compared to hedonist to king.
Yes.
Yes.
I,
Go ahead.
well, I think I know where you're at. So,
Mhm.
so the octaves would give you a map, a conscious map of like the laws baked. So the law of seven, which is what octaves are based on, and people will say, wait, but that's an eight, an octave eight, right? But the octave is the completion of the seven do re mi. Once it repeats back to a do, you've completed an octave. The eighth note is now the new seven that you have to go through, right? So they're the same thing. But they give you a map to see there's a progression of do re mi. Then you have a gap, right? You have a place where extra energy from a higher power is needed to complete the next jump, right? And so it's a natural point of entropy. So if there is not sufficient energy to direct it through that transition, so the mi fa, entropy takes over and it goes down. So things move towards decay. This is why mechanically everything is moving towards a state of decay, which is the second law of thermodynamics, right? However, if it is at the critical juncture, the right energy is imbued from the outside, it can ascend into the next part of the octave. So then you have, so do, re, mi, then you have fa, so, la, and then you have the si, do, right? So you have 2 points in the octave where extra energy is needed from a higher power to move you up against nature or against entropy, right? Um, and so it gives you the roadmap of realizing, like, sometimes, like you were saying, okay, you're going from the rebel or the rebel to the warrior.
Mhm.
There's a lot of overlap there. It's kind of like going from red to orange, right?
Exactly.
It's very similar. It's different. It's different enough that we know red and we know orange, but it's smooth, right? It's a very nice slide versus, like you said, you go from the hedonist or the rebel to the king or whatever. You're jumping way too far. So you start to realize that there is a natural progression, but there's still a point where the shock is required to then take something beyond what it mechanically can do. So naturally, when you progress in anything, there is a point in your progression where you can kind of get somewhere. A good example would be, let's take a skill like any trade. You're learning, maybe it's screenwriting. We'll keep it relevant. You're learning screenwriting. Well, there's a natural progression of when you start. It's like you learn screenplay format, you learn the basic vernacular around writing, you learn the basic concepts around story structure, right? That are kind of ancient, the hero's journey. You learn all of that, and then you hit a wall. The wall is, well, now I know all these basic structure points. How do I use it to actually create something on my own that didn't exist? That would require sufficient energy. Oftentimes, that's someone hiring a coach, a mentor, taking a class, becoming an apprentice. Do you see what I mean? To
Mhm.
get past that point, right? Or at a more simple level, it's like, okay, I learned my alphabet, I learned my words, I learned sentences, but I want to be a novelist. You see, there's a natural progression, easy from the letters, words, sentences, but then huge progression to writing prose that someone would give a crap about. You see, huge. And so it's kind of like that. You start realizing, oh, I'm at the gap. I'm at the place where I need help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like on the hero's journey, that's exactly where the mentor tends to come in or is needed,
That's
right?
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it alone.
Yeah. Right. It has to be an outside source.
Yeah.
And it will cause a shock. Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It does. It's got when we were having the town hall. I don't know if they're listening right now. Somebody said, "Don't take away my Chewbacca." Remember, I made a comment about.
Oh, yes.
I don't remember
Oh,
who
yeah.
that was, but yeah, Michelle was it Michelle? I know. Anyway,
I
somebody
can't
said, "Don't take away my Chewbacca." But this comes in the mentor. So the archetype, the mentor in Star Wars was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And see, Luke can't do anything without Obi-Wan Kenobi, can he?
Right.
He has a hunger inside of himself. There's a natural progression, but until he comes to the point of Obi-Wan Kenobi, he has no knowledge or experience to even understand his destiny or the Force or any of that, right? And Luke still has to do the work. Obi can't do it for him, but that's the role of the mentor. And you start to realize that that's the way life is designed. But consciousness ascending, there's always the point where we have to have the higher power come in. We have to find the teacher, their higher beings and higher powers that can intervene at that point. And there's a humility to that of realizing, oh, I can't just do everything myself.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. And that's born out of the vision of something greater, right?
Yes.
Because if you didn't know that that was possible, then you wouldn't even know that you're on the precipice of greater growth. But if you know that, like, oh, looks like fun to write books and stories and screenplays or whatever the creation is,
Mm-hmm.
then you couldn't even go for that. You wouldn't be hungry for an outside source. This is the whole premise for the coaching world, right? That people can get so far and so fast on their own, and then you bring in someone that's like literally. I started working with a coach. I made the leap that day, and I hadn't even had a single session with them.
Mm-hmm.
Not even one single session. I energetically made a huge leap, and it was the day I decided I'm writing my book. Now the book wasn't finished then, but I got the shock just from having the support in. And to tell you the truth, he didn't help me write that book.
Right.
And I hired other coaches that set me back in the process.
Yep.
I got the energy. It was really an energy thing that had me go the distance and do it anyway.
Yeah, that could be the commitment of it.
That's a big part, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Very big part.
It's also the idea of payment is baked into, like, we've heard this is a common saying, but if you don't pay, you don't pay attention, right?
Mhm.
Like when things are free all the time, we don't value them. So sometimes because consciously you valued yourself enough to hire the coach, then that means you believe you could actually improve. That was enough in that example to spark you into actually improving.
Yeah, and I don't want to diminish his guidance in any way. He was
Sure.
of a massive influence, but yeah, clearly that was exactly what was happening. What you're saying, and then even when you say outside source, could that be something like an archangel given in within that food feeding system, or like are archangels allowed to intervene in this realm?
Yeah, they always are. The difference is your ignorance of them. See, it's like, uh, if you go to the hero's journey, like Luke Skywalker was ignorant of the Force. He didn't know about it. But did that mean the Force didn't exist? You see, it was already there. It was already working. He was already being guided. We can see in the serendipity of everything that happened in that story. It's why so to whoever said I was taking their Chewbacca, I'll never take your Chewbacca. But that's kind of the success of that film, is that it was the perfect embodiment of the hero's journey. The whole archetype, the whole 3-episode structure was, and it's already there. Those forces are already conspiring about you. It's up to you to make the call, right? Like see, we in the hero's journey, we go into the debate after the hero is called. Like Luke, what did Luke do in Star Wars? He said, "But I have to go back and get some power converters." Right? Do you remember that whole thing when Obi-Wan tells him the truth, and I got to go back to the farm now, right? Mr. Brave Adventure Boy denies the call, right? Now fate intervened and stopped him, remember?
Sort of, but now I have to watch again. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
but the idea is that we have to consciously choose it at some point. We have to go through the motions, and if you're willing to do that, then there is help for you. In the Gurdjieff work, it's known as the rope. You've come to the ledge, and you have to see that you can jump, but there's a rope that you can grab onto. You just didn't know it was there. That's the surrendering to the work.
Right. Is it safe to say that archangels are always trying to help us, and we just simply don't accept that? We don't receive or even look for the rope. We don't believe the rope is there.
Right. That's right. And that's the problem, is they would always be there. There's always a higher power available, right? If you go back to the Gospels, like you had Jesus saying over and over again, the kingdom of heaven is within you, or the kingdom of heaven is near. All that has to do with the fact that it's already there. It's already happening. But we choose to remain ignorant of it.
Exactly. Yeah, my mom used to talk about guardian angels a lot. And I wonder if it's the same thing, like I should have been dead several times over. And there's something obviously intervening that wasn't worldly in that process. And is it something that you're like, it's very easy to see, oh, I want to be a screenwriter and I need a coach and I'm going to hire Micah to gain this skill. That's very matter of fact. But when it comes to, like, say, maybe impossible situations, there's so many in life, right? That set up this lose-lose kind of situation that points right to a program. And then is it literally to call on the higher power? Is that the thing? Like, oh, Archangel Michael, people talk about, which I always feel so flaky, like calling on those angels for assistance or protection, or
that would again assume that you knew them.
Which you don't.
Yeah. See, this is the point, is that right? That's a fantasy. Like that becomes kind of like iconography. Like it gives a sense of certainty. Oh, I prayed to this saint or this ascended master or something. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm not like putting a judgment on it, but that's not exactly the idea. Is that there are powers beyond your understanding that you can't understand.
Right.
And what is in a name anyway?
Exactly. And then it comes down to sublimation. Then, right, being willing to consciously suffer. For those that don't know what that means, if you're tuning in and that sounds retarded, it's the difference between unconscious suffering that we do all the time, that creates a lot of things that we don't want, that literally attracts to you experiences you'd rather not have. This doesn't save you, but the willingness to go through and see the reality that Starbucks coffee does not taste the same anymore, that they changed it, that there's something bad and wrong in there or different. And that's a very, very bad example. But the willingness to take the work that you've been given by your life, right? Your life has served you certain circumstances. It's put you in certain situations, in certain kind of relationships with certain kinds of challenges. And that's the opportunity that we have to, is this a bad conclusion to get into greater, be more available to a higher power?
Yes.
Okay.
More available is, so it would be accepting that they need you to, they want you to, the same way. See, that idea of the prodigal son is that eventually the son would come back, right? He'd gone astray and eventually would come back. That's the hope. The hope is, just like with your children, you're letting somebody go to develop their agency. we're here to have the separation. Will we choose to come back? Just like in a relationship, if you've ever let someone go in a relationship, could be friendship, could be romantic, doesn't matter. Do they choose to come back to you versus you forcing it to cling on? So that desire is there at the plane above you. And there are those looking upon you with the same hope that you would hope that the person would want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But you're giving them the space to realize, hey, they may choose not to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be nice if they did?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the idea is that they would want you. The feeding idea is like that would feed them if you did. But in order to feed them, guess what you're not doing? Then you're not feeding the lower entities anymore.
2 for 1.
Well, yeah.
Nice. That's beautiful. It's very high. Hello, Ellie McBeal. Nice to see you. She said that was your first reaction to the archetype quiz a year ago. Or maybe you're responding to Michelle's last comment, or if there's anything else there, what that means, feel free to let us know. And so let's see if there was anything else I was going to cover here in terms of, say, we're going to be diving into the arts. We don't have to go into deep to it. We'll be having that chance on Monday again, but where art is an opportunity for a kind of what I'm calling is a creative sublimation. Mm-hmm. So an artist can classically take some kind of suffering and turn it into a piece of some kind, into a work that would be available for others to see, to benefit from, to have it affect them from a very high place. It might actually be transformational. Like otherwise it wouldn't be a sublimation. And so is there anything you want to say about that process of creative sublimation? Since you created so much in your life, you really have a handle on that.
Here's what I would say about it. The part that's hard for people to understand is to give up control when you're creating. So you can't control and create at the same time. Creation, the Genesis part of it is actually a very feminine thing. It's a birthing thing, right?
Like a passive reception, or no? Okay.
Is it like you're not in control? Like, you have a son, you're not in control of everything about him. You have a role to play. So the way of seeing the creative process is more as a parent. So what happens is you're birthing something, which means allowing it to come through from another plane. And then your job is to understand it and help it. Mm-hmm. Accepting its own agency. And I think that's the key with the creative process, is because we like to keep everything in the intellect and formatory, and we want to control it. That's also why take just modern filmmaking, it's just such drivel and garbage anymore. It's all a very corporate controlled process, right? There's no risk anymore. Mm-hmm. There's no authenticity anymore, because
there's no uncertainty.
There's no uncertainty. That's right. Because there's the real chance, if you create something genuine, that it sucks and no one's going to like it and it never succeeds. What are they trying to do from a studio perspective? Well, if we hit these notes, this will be successful. If we tap this demographic this way, if we piggyback on this intellectual property, does that make sense? Here's the new trend with cameras or editing or with actors or actresses, if we put more sex in it, it'll for sure, somebody will watch it. I mean, look, it's like the whole, I don't watch it, but I've heard about all this stuff with, the show Euphoria, and it's basically like turned into a porn, right? Do you know about how crazy it's gotten?
No.
It's like the number one show for young people, and like Sydney Sweeney's basically doing like, it's basically pornography. Like I don't see how it isn't. But see, it sells, right? And the point is, like, all of this stuff is, well, how do we hit these things? Well, now if you're doing that, you're not being creative anymore, you're being controlling. And that's the false personality taking over. So real creation requires risk. Some of the best films ever made they flopped. There are really great movies that, like, I'm just using movies because it's something I know pretty well, but the same thing happens with books and music. Mm-hmm. There's no guarantee that it's successful. You know, a lot of the films that I really like were box office failures. They maybe got respect 20 to 30 years later in like aftermarket sales. Took time to develop a cult following. Like another example would be like, look at Van Gogh. He never sold a painting in his life,
Mm-hmm.
right? But but he took great risk to do that, right? Great risk. And I think he went insane, you know, like it's just, that's the point, is like creation requires that. We don't like to hear that. We want the formula. We want, hey, Chat GPT, give me an award-winning viral movie script.
Exactly.
Right. And that's the opposite of what it would take to do that, to have the real risk, to put real skin in the game. And you may be successful and you may not, but the point is that you actually do have to let go of the control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when you're going to be you're voluntarily suffering to be, to provide or to be part of that food chain, and to let that creation take on its own life. The child is the best metaphor for that, because if you try to micromanage a child's life, first of all, they're going to hate you.
Yes.
They're gonna either acquiesce and become all like mushy and nothingness in it, wanting to please you, or they're gonna completely rebel against you and push against you and fight with you the whole time. And then, yeah, there's nothing like, letting go, right? Like, which is the ultimate way to sublimate in it with an internal process, is to let go of that which makes you hungry for control, to let that part go. Some people say that's letting go of control. I'll say that's letting go of the program that instructs you don't have control and that you need to do that. Just clarifying for my own sake. But yeah, watching something grow organically that's come out of you, whether that's a human or a film or any other kind of thing, is remarkable. There is an organic nature to it. It's obviously got energy from somewhere. You are the steward. Someone used the word steward earlier in the chat, but yeah, there's energy coming from a different place, and that's a really beautiful thing to allow. So nice. Yeah. I like that. Anyway, just tried to cap that with a whole bunch of words. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I see the comment about love the big magic approach. What
does that mean, Elisa?
Can you explain that?
Yeah, let us know if you're still able to come into the chat. And I think we're starting to wind up now, getting towards the end of our time, but we'll wait for Elisa in case she can say more. And I want to let people know also that we're about to finish the course called The End of the False Self. And Micah and I have cooked up another opportunity for people to do this work, combining the archetype work, combining Gurdjieff's work, and Micah's background as an acting coach and role playing. And so watch for more details about this coming up. We've got a working title of Self-Remembering with Archetypes, and it's going to be super cool. It's a book, she says.
Cool. I'll have to look it up. I don't think I'm familiar, but yeah, I'll make a note of it.
All right, Jillian, we're going to hop off now too. So thank you for coming. I appreciate your presence, and everybody else here today. Thank you very much. Come back on Monday at noon. You'll see Micah, myself, Roy Wooten, who is Future Man, a great inventor. And just maybe the last thing I kept thinking of, Roy, while you were talking, that there's no guarantee, right? It is a genuine risk. It is something you put yourself out there. It makes it authentic in that respect. It may or may not work. When he came out with the Drumitar, he was hoping that there would be no response, that would be the best case scenario, rather than like people criticizing or not liking it or having, like some kind of critique or something like that. He was just hoping for no response. He knew he was risking. He knew he was out coloring outside the lines and creating something entirely new. So that's something that it's extremely energizing, and I love that. And thank you very much. That's lovely, Elisa, to say. Thank you, and thank you, Janet. Nice to have you here. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you again on Monday, Micah. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend. Hope everybody else also enjoys their, I hope it's summer somewhere. That's certainly summer here. We're in the, if we speak Fahrenheit, we're in the 90s now.
Oh, wow.
My poor son. Yeah. It jumped up like literally almost 10 degrees. My son works outside all day long. I said to him yesterday, hey, do you want to bike over and visit me in the garden? He said, I don't want to go outside ever again.
Yeah.
Because he's outside for like 8-10 hours a day
Yeah.
in a row. Yeah. Every day, all day. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining. We'll be back again, or for sure. This show is running back again on 1 week today, Fridays, regularly, which is part of that that creation process. A little at a time always is a beautiful thing. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Micah, for being here. I always enjoy our conversation.
Thank you everyone for the questions. Thanks.
You are very welcome. All right. Now I'll play us out. Bye for now, everyone.